Eddie Chavez, Ruben Nava, and Jesse Romero. Jesus 911.
Good morning, Virgin Most Powerful listeners. Eddie Chavez and Jess Romero today on Jesus 911 for you, for your listening pleasure, for your SWAT spiritual weapons and spiritual weapons and tactics training.
That's right.
What's going on, Jess? Reporting for duty, sir.
That's right. Reporting for duty, sir. Eddie, my heart's kind of heavy right now. There's a fellow officer who just passed away. We can tell us a little bit about him, the circumstances, and we can pray for him. Then we can get into our topic. We got a good topic today, Eddie. We're going to actually talk about the Roman ritual, which is the book that priests use for the rite of exorcism, for what's called a solemn exorcism, or they'll call it a major exorcism. We're going to go through the 20 points of what a priest has to follow, the protocol, and it's very detailed, it's very specific. It's their manual to go into spiritual battle, to enter the cage with the devil, the UFC cage, basically. And we'll be going through that, but tell us a little bit about who passed away, his name, and let's pray for him.
Yeah, Jess, there was a CHP sergeant out of the Riverside CHP office here in California who was killed by a suspected DUI driver on the 15 freeway over the weekend. His name is Sergeant Steve Lycon. He was a 27-year vet, Jess. He was months away from retirement, and so this was a very unexpected, sudden occurrence that happened. He was struck by an individual by the name of Michael Callahan, 36 years of age, of Winchester, who was on the right shoulder of the freeway and collided with a motorcycle. So this was something that nobody could foresee. It was not avoidable in terms of something he could have done to avoid it. So sometimes, just as law enforcement, we have. We see an officer that did something, maybe made a couple mistakes and got hurt, and we say, well, this is why. This is one of those where there's nobody, nobody really at fault other than the individual was driving under the influence. So they charged him. They arrested him over the weekend for a murder and a suspicion of driving under the influence. So let's say a prayer for him. We say in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, Amen. Lord Jesus Christ, we ask that you remember Sergeant Steve Lycon in your mercy and your love. And we'll pray the Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of death. Amen. Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. Yeah, our thoughts and prayer today are with the family of Sergeant Lycon, Jess.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a great topic, like you said, Jess. We're going to talk about the ritual, the Roman
this
ritual.
Is probably the top, Eddie. This is a topic that most Catholics are curious about, and they're like, "Man, what do priests use? What are the rules of engage?" This is basically the rules of engagement for a Catholic priest against a demon. That's what it is. That's what we're going to go through.
Yeah, that's basically it. Just, this is the creme de la creme. This is the top battle cry for those of us who fight the devil and in a very special way when it comes to solemn exorcism. So let's get into the points, Jess. Let's talk about it.
Let me just mention one thing before we get into the Catholic Roman ritual.
Right.
Just want to remind people that the Jews were doing this before we were. Okay, so let's not pat ourselves on the back, say it's the Catholics that. No, the ministry of exorcism was already around at least 1,000 years before the time of Christ by the Jews. And I was poking around last night, seeing how Jews do an exorcism. There's 3 things that they did, and then we'll get into the Catholic. They sang around the possessed person, and we see that in 1 Samuel chapter 16. They followed basically David's pattern, where they would sing holy songs around the person. Also, they would pray Psalm 91, as I've told you many times, over and over and over in a loop. They would pray it over and over and in the presence of the possessed. Psalm 91 is the oldest exorcism psalm that we have in the Bible, and that's the Jewish exorcism psalm. It's used by the Catholic Church as well. And then the third thing they would do, and I found that kind of interesting, they would blow a shofar in the possessed, that ram's horn.
Right.
That ram's horn, the shofar, It's a battle. It's used right before the Jews enter battle, but it's also used in their liturgy. So they use it liturgically. They blow it in the face of the possessed person. And so those are some of the things that the Jews do. But let's go into what we do.
And just the reason they needed it then, because the devil was still prevalent then. He was still an enemy force that they had to be dealt with. Okay, so number one, Jess.
This was put together in 1614, first of all. So people don't, wait, what was it? But together in 1614 under the direction of Pope St. Pius V, the same Pope that gave us the Tridentine Mass is the same Pope that gave us the Roman ritual. And guess what? He's a saint, St. Pius V. He's also the same Pope that lived under the Battle of Lepanto. So let's go, number one, Eddie.
Okay, number one. A priest, one who is expressly and particularly authorized by the ordinary, the bishop, when he intends to perform an exorcism over persons tormented by the devil, must be properly distinguished for his piety, prudence, and integrity of life. He should fulfill this devout undertaking in all constancy and humility, being utterly immune to any striving for human aggrandizement, and relying not on his own, but on the divine power. Moreover, he ought to be of mature years and revered not alone for his office, but for his moral qualities. So, Jess, this is something that we would assume that the church would mandate this, but here it is in writing, and so this is not going to include anybody, Jess, who has been accused of some wrongdoing.
We're living a double life, Eddie, as many of them are.
Exactly, and so therefore here's he has to be of mature years, and so these are all things that we would hope that are consistent with men of the priesthood, even though we know they're not.
Number two. In order to exercise his ministry rightly, he should resort to a great deal more study of the matter, which has to be passed over here for the sake of brevity, by examining approved authors and cases from experience. On the other hand, let him carefully observe the few more important points enumerated here. So the rite actually says that priests have to study above and beyond seminary, because I don't know how it was back in 1614 AD, but I know after 1965, demonology and spiritual warfare has not been taught in seminaries. So priests that want to know about this have to go on their own. There are schools to go for this. For example, you got the Pope Leo XIII Institute. You got over in Colorado Springs, they opened up a second institute on spiritual warfare. Father Ripperger did. It's called the Liberi Cristo Institute. So it's a second Leo XIII on both sides of the country. And then there's a few places. I know Steubenville used to, they were offering exorcism in a summer course. I remember when I went and took a couple of classes over summer in the year 2000, there was an exorcist there and I ended up becoming good friends with him. We ended up keeping in contact for many years. And I told him, because I couldn't take his class, I already was taking another class. And I was like, man, I should drop my class on biblical theology and take this class on exorcism. But there were some classes that I had to take for my master's. So I talked to him. His name was Father Kenneth. I said, Father, can you give me all the books that you mandate for your class? Because I'd like to read them on my own. I can't take your class because I'm locked into this class that I have to take to graduate. And he did. He gave me 6 books that he mandated, and I read them all. And it was at that point where I started becoming more and more interested. In fact, I was kind of curious just the other day, looking at my library. I've read 27 books, and I'm going on number 28 right now. I've read 28 books on possession, demonology, spiritual warfare, and exorcism from Catholic priests. And it started with this relationship with Father Kenneth in the year 2000. Eddie?
That's great. Number 3, Jess, especially he should not believe too readily that a person is possessed by an evil spirit, but he ought to ascertain the signs by which a person possessed can be distinguished from one who is suffering from some illness, especially one of psychological nature. Number 1, signs of possession may be the following: ability to speak with some facility in a strange tongue, or to understand it when spoken by another. This is what we refer to just as hurt, right? Hurt, and we'll go over that acronym. Yeah. The faculty of divulging future and hidden events, display of powers which are beyond the subject's age and natural condition, and various other indications which, when taken together as a whole, build up the evidence. So, Jess, HURT is an acronym for hidden knowledge, unnatural strength, rejects sacred objects. That's the one that he didn't mention here. That he puts together with the other ones, and talks in unstudied languages. And that's the four essential elements of somebody that's possessed.
According to the Catholic Church, correct.
Right. Yeah.
Number four. In order to understand these matters, let him inquire of the person possessed following one or the other act of exorcism, what the latter experienced in his body or soul while the exorcism was being performed, and to learn also what particular words in the form had a more intimidating effect upon the devil, so that hereafter these words may be employed with greater stress and frequency. So what a trained priest will do, as they're praying exorcism and delivering prayers over the person, they'll go for 15, 20 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, then they'll stop. Once they see that the pain, the manifestations have subsided, they've calmed down, then they'll talk to the person. Okay, what prayers are more effective? What prayers hurt the demon? Tell me how you feel. Is it leaving? What did it tell you? So the priest is doing like counseling in between. Then he goes, okay, are you ready? We're going to go back into it. Okay, we're going to start. Okay, all right, you ready? Okay, let's go. Boom, then he'll start again. Yeah. So there's a series of conversations, Eddie, that take place. They just don't go for 2 or 3 hours straight.
Exactly. And we'll get back to this one real quick. I got a couple things to say about this. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Jesus 911 on this fine Monday morning in Southern California and Phoenix. And we'll be right back. Don't touch that dial.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet 3 men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911, ladies and gentlemen. We're back with Jess Romero. We're going over some of the 20 or 21 things that are necessary of a Catholic priest who is selected by the ordinary, by the bishop, to perform a solemn exorcism. And so we're at number 4 here. And just the only thing I want
You're going to make some comments, Eddie. I read it. You're going to make some comments.
Yeah. You know what? Just this is the thing. I think that what happens here is, like you said, the priest will reassess what's going on. He'll ask the individual, "Hey, what was going on in your mind? What?" Because most people will have a reaction. Just most people will say, "Hey, listen, this is what I felt. This is what there was some pain in my stomach. There was some pain in my back." And then the priest will reassess it. So he has to have some knowledge of the case that he's working here, Jess, and then he applies those things that he's studied to the actual case. And this is so important because people are infected, people are possessed by different modes of action by the enemy. So his job is to identify it, to expose it, and then cast it out. And
it also basic conversation occurs between the priest and the victim. Stuff like, are you thirsty? Do you want a glass of water? Yeah. You want to adjust yourself on the chair? So, I mean, even just basic stuff like that on a human level so he can proceed. And let's go to number 5.
Yes, go ahead.
He will be on his guard. This is the manual for priests that they have to follow. That's what we're going through in the rite of exorcism given to us by St. Pius V back in 1614 AD. So this is the rules of engagement, if you will, for a Catholic priest when they enter into a solemn exorcism. Number 5, he will be on his guard. This is a priest against the arts and subterfuges, that means deception, which the evil spirits are wont to use in deceiving the exorcist. For often they give deceptive answers and make it difficult to understand them, so that the exorcist might tire and give up, or so that it might appear that the afflicted one is in no wise possessed by the devil. Here's my comment. What exorcism is, it's like a chess game. You'll find it's the priest and his skills and his holiness and the prayers of the church going at it against the deceptions of a demon who doesn't want to be cast out, who wants to hide and not respond, or who wants to go mute, or who wants to, sometimes they'll just chatter. They'll just talk a lot just to try to block the person's prayers. And so it's a chess game. And this is why you don't need a rookie doing this stuff.
Yeah, Jesse, this is precisely what the church wants in a priest that is able to use all the things that you mentioned, in addition to that sixth sense. That sixth sense, if somebody is telling the truth, if the victim is telling the truth, or if there's some influence by the demon that's trying to fend off the prayers of the priest. So yeah, that's number 5.
Number 6.
Once in a while, after they are already recognized, they conceal themselves and leave the body practically free from every molestation, so that the victim believes himself completely delivered. Yet to the exorcist may not desist until he sees the signs of deliverance. So just, Father Amorth would always use the demon's responses in order to withdraw, to take out of the victim what was going to be the exiting phrase. There's always a word or a phrase that the individual must utter so that he knows for sure the demon has been cast out. And not until that happens is the priest willing to believe that just because now everything's subsided and everything looks calm, that the demon is gone.
Right. That's why these things could go on for weeks or months or years.
Yeah.
I just read a case where Father Amorth says he did the rite of exorcism over a young girl for 13 years.
Wow. That's
Is
amazing.
this microphone on? Point number 7. At times, moreover, the evil spirits place whatever obstacles they can in the way, so that the patient may not submit to exorcism, or they try to convince him that his affliction is a natural one. I think that's a huge one right there.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, during the exorcism, they cause him, that's the person, to fall asleep and dangle some illusion before him while they seclude themselves so that the afflicted one appears to be freed. So you'll see they'll put the persons in a trance and sometimes cause them to fall asleep. That way they're not paying attention. They're blocking all the prayers of the priest. Or you'll find, just like in the actual case, if you read the transcripts, I've read them, the entire transcripts of the exorcism of Emily Rose, it's on the internet. The demons told the priest that they were trying to make people believe that Emily Rose just had mental illness, so that they would put her in a state hospital and nobody would ever pray for her or no exorcism would be performed. So the demons are trying to get the doctors just to sign her off that she lost her mind, she has mental illness, and that way the church would back off from the case. So demons want to do that because if somebody's just written off as having mental illness, then the person is just going to be warehoused somewhere, and they'll never pray over them, and that's the victory for the demon.
And just, you know what, this is something that's very common. I mean, I remember cases where they were on the way to the church for either a deliverance or an exorcism, and what happened was people began to freak out in the car. They began to tell the people that were driving them there, that's okay, I don't need this after all, I feel better. And so this is something that's very common that should be expected and is often employed by the enemy.
Absolutely.
Number 8. Some reveal a crime which has been committed and the perpetrators thereof, as well as the means of putting an end to it. Yet the afflicted person must beware of having recourse on this account to sorcerers or necromancers or to any parties except the ministers of the church, or of making use of any superstitious or forbidden practices. So I think just that what they're saying here is that, sometimes a criminal act may be solicited from the church, the ritual. However, if there is the use which would tend to explain why the person was possessed of a witch, a sorcerer, etc., then that has to be identified, and that can be done by the priest asking the demon to reveal those facts.
Also, in point number 8, here's what jumps out at me, is that there are many low information Catholics that are seeing a priest either for minor exorcism, major exorcism, or just a healing and deliverance team of lay Catholics. And at the same time, they're also seeing a sorcerer. So they're doing both because they're thinking, well, I want to get rid of this evil spirit, so I'll use the Catholic means, and I'll use also the means that some of the people in my neighborhood have told me to go to this person. So you can't be double dipping, because you can't be going to a priest in the Catholic Church and some demonic, some sorcerer who's a disciple of Satan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, just you have to be told. That's why some of these things go on for 13 years, just because the individual is not
the people you're dealing with, Eddie, are not catechized.
Exactly.
They're low information Catholics.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't know how to pray a rosary. They don't know. They have never read the Bible before. They don't know about what's state of grace. What does that mean? Oh, I can't live with my girlfriend. A lot of these people bring it upon themselves. They just live in perpetual mortal sin. And so I've read from Father Ripperger. He says a lot of what he does, he goes, a lot of what I do, he goes, I'm catechizing them as I'm praying over them. He says, because if not, they're not going to get healed unless their mind is formed with the Word of God on what's right and wrong. And many of them just don't know. And that's, to me, that's another topic. That's a result of the modernists in Vatican II that are just really downplayed doctrine. That's my opinion. That's for another day.
Yeah, exactly.
Point number 9.
Nine.
Sometimes the devil will leave the possessed person in peace and even allow him to receive the Holy Eucharist to make it appear that he has departed. In fact, the arts and frauds of the evil one for deceiving a man are innumerable. For this reason, the exorcist must be on his guard not to fall into this trap. So it goes to show you that, once again, because a lot of people could be making sacrilegious communions. The possessed person, I've heard that they tell the priest, Father, I want to receive Holy Communion. They're not in a state of grace. And sometimes a priest, at the moment where he thinks that they're healed, he'll go and give them Holy Communion, and they're not in a state of grace. They just have received partial relief, and that just makes their communion sacrilegious.
And this is again another instance where the priest's sixth sense will kick in. So in their conversations with the individual prior to the case, or even during the ritual, they will be able to tell if the individual is being entirely honest with them, is being totally forthcoming. Because I don't know how many times, Jess, if you remember, we would get together for one of these, and the person said, I think I should go to confession. Well, Father said, well, didn't you go to confession last week? Well, yes, but this is, and then he goes to confession. So this is where I think an experienced priest is very valuable in this regard.
And even, by the way, Father Ripperger and others say that even the team that's praying with the priest, they have to be recently confessed as well, and definitely in a state of grace. Yeah. You can't be part of a team like this and be going in there with mortal sin. Yeah, Father, I'll help you.
Yeah, I'll be part of your kick butt team here, but no, I am in state of mortal sin. Okay, number 10. Therefore, he will be mindful of the words of our Lord in Matthew 17, verse 20, to the effect that there is a certain type of evil spirit who cannot be driven out except by prayer and fasting. Therefore, let him avail himself of these two means above all for imploring the divine assistance in expelling demons, after the example of the holy fathers, and not only himself, but let him induce others as far as possible to do the same. So there you go, Jess. We're talking about the team needs to be prayer and fasting needs to be in a state of grace. They need to be exhibiting those virtues which help get the demon out, cast the demon out. Of course, it's the prayers of the priest, but the team has a great deal to do about it, and the priest himself just has to partake of these things that the Bible talks about in Matthew 17.
Right. Number 11, if it can be done conveniently, the possessed person should be led to church or to some other sacred and worthy place where the exorcism will be held, away from the crowd. But if the person is ill or for any valid reason, the exorcism may take place in a private home. I mean, for example, Robbie Mineham's, a lot of his exorcisms started off in his home. Right. Emily Rose, a lot of the exorcism started off in her home, but the preferred place would be inside of a Catholic church. Why? Because that gives the priest as they say in police work and in the military, the position of advantage or higher ground.
Yeah, just you don't want to be doing one of these rituals, one of these solemn exorcisms in a home where there had been a seance done, or they had been some other thing like that.
They do. They will. Sometimes priests have to do it, and they'll go in there.
Right, exactly. But I mean, that's not the preferred place, obviously. Yeah. But they have to. Okay, number 12. The subject, if in good mental and physical health, should be exhorted to implore God's help, to fast and to fortify himself by frequent reception of penance and Holy Communion, at the discretion of the priest. And in the course of the exorcism, he should be fully recollected with his intention fixed on God, whom he should entreat with firm faith and in all humility. And he is all the more grievously tormented. He ought to bear this patiently, never doubting the divine assistance. We'll talk about that, number 12, when we come back. Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Jesus 911. We're talking about the 20 points that the ordinary assigns a priest who is going to tackle a exorcism. We'll be right back. Don't change that dial.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet 3 men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911, everybody. We were in the middle of our SWAT training here, Jess. So let's keep going here. Now we just read number 12. Jess, you wanna make a comment on number 12?
Yeah, on number 12. If the subjective and good mental health, I'll read it again, should be exhorted to implore God's help, to fast, and to fortify himself for frequent reception of penance and Holy Communion at the discretion of the priest. And in the course of the exorcism, he should be fully recollected, with his intention fixed on God, whom he should entreat with firm faith and in all humility. And if he is all the more grievously tormented, he ought to bear this patiently, never doubting the divine assistance. There's two things that jump out that the victim has to do. Number one, this is saying, number 12, that the victim has to fully participate in the life of the Catholic Church. If the person's not fully participating in the sacramental life and the prayer life of the church, you're not going to get healed, A. B, if the person is possessed and now they are living in a state of grace now, learning their faith, catechizing themselves and participating in the life of the church, even though they remain possessed, and they can remain possessed for years, it says here in number 12, they ought to bear this patiently. In other words, God is allowing the possession to occur to purify you. And God is allowing you now at this point to make reparation for your sins and for other people's sins, and also for the release of souls in purgatory. So God will even use your possession for his greater honor and glory.
Yeah, just this is something that the individual has to be focused on the life of the church, on the sacraments, on devotion, whether the Blessed Virgin Mary or a saint, in order to help him through this difficult part of their life. And like you said, it can go on for a long time if these things are not done with their full attention.
Yeah. Number 13, Eddie.
Number 13, he ought to have a crucifix at hand or somewhere in sight. If relics of the saints are available, they are to be applied in a reverent way to the breast or the head of the person possessed. The relics must be properly and securely encased and covered. One will see to it that these sacred objects are not treated improperly or that no injury is done by them by the evil spirit. However, one should not hold the Holy Eucharist over the head of the person in any way apply it to his body, owing to the danger of desecration. So, just this, the suggestion here is that there always be a crucifix in the hands of the priest or close to the hands of the priest. For example, when he's reading out of the ritual, so that anything could be addressed, any kind of affliction that the demons give to the people can be addressed by the priest, and especially the Holy Eucharist, that they shouldn't risk the desecration in the event that they're going to use the Holy Eucharist here.
Yeah, they can't have it with them in their hand. They
Right.
can't have it around their neck. It's not supposed to be used during the ritual. It's supposed to be either in the tabernacle or in a
Or
monstrance.
exposed, yeah.
Priest is not supposed to be using this. Lay people are not supposed to be using the Holy Eucharist. Relics can be used. They're very effective. I've seen them very effective. People will tell you right after, what did you put on my back? It was burning me. I felt so much pain, but so much relief. Relics are very powerful, and the crucifix. Some people argue, it's got to be wood, it's got to be silver. Father Amorth says it could be either one, and he ought to know. He says, I use silver, I use wood, as long as it's blessed by a Catholic priest. Point number 14. The exorcist must not digress into senseless prattle, nor ask superfluous questions or such as are prompted by curiosity, particularly if they pertain to future and hidden matters, all of which have nothing to do with his office. Instead, he will bid the unclean spirit to keep silence and answer only when asked. Neither ought he to give any credence to the devil if the latter maintains that he is the spirit of some saint or of a deceased party, or even claims to be a good angel. So when you see this property done, this is an interrogation. The priest, and the only time that they can interrogate, by the way, I guess I should make the distinction, is on a solemn exorcism. Because in a minor exorcism, I've seen where the demon will tell the priest, you have no authority. You don't have authority to ask me questions. I don't have to answer you. I've seen it. They know. They know when the priest, the prayers are so powerful, it still affects them, it still torments them, but they won't cooperate as much. It's a lot harder. Where in a major exorcism, they have to answer the questions, and the priest knows that. And so the priest is like a military drill instructor.
Yeah.
When did you come in Jesus' name? Because they know that they have the authority of the bishop, who's the successor of the apostles, and the demons know that as well.
Yeah, just, I have heard of somebody claiming to have a good angel in them and insisting, no, it's not a bad angel, it's a good angel. But I've never had anybody say that they were a saint. Have you ever had one of those, Jess, that somebody was a saint?
No, but
the demon was a saint?
But Padre Pio, he writes in his memoirs, he writes that saints would appear to him in his room and they turn out to be demons. He'd say a prayer, then all of a sudden they go into black smoke and disappear and scream. He says they would even sometimes they've even take our Lord's representation, Jesus Christ or the Blessed Virgin Mary. He'd say a prayer because the sixth sense would kick in, and all of a sudden they would just disappear in a cloud of smoke. And so, yeah, according to the tradition of the Catholic Church,
it's possible.
Yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, number 15. But necessary questions are, for example, the number and name of the spirits inhabiting the patient, the time when they entered into him, the cause thereof, and the like. As for all jesting, laughing, and nonsense on the part of the evil spirit, the exorcist should prevent it or condemn it. And he will exhort the bystanders whose number must be very limited to pay no attention to such goings on. Neither are they to put any question to the subject. Rather, they should intercede for him to God in all humility and urgency. Just this is what a prayer team is intended to be here, to focus their prayers of intercession to God on behalf of the patient, and that they will come to knowledge of the church.
That's right. Number 16, let the priest pronounce the exorcism in a commanding and authoritative voice, and at the same time with great confidence, humility, and fervor. And when he sees that the spirit is sorely vexed, then he oppresses and threatens all the more. If he notices that the person afflicted is experiencing a disturbance in some part of his body, or an acute pain or a swelling appears in some part, he traces the sign of the cross over that place and sprinkles it with holy water, which he must have at hand for this purpose. The long and the short of it, number 16, demons know, and they just know by your voice inflection. They know if you're afraid. And that's why the rite actually tells you right here. This is mandated to the priest. Sound commanding. Use an authoritative voice. Don't go sounding like Michael Jackson. Rest in peace. Trying to pray the Roman ritual. You got to pray. This is a man's job here. This is why well-formed Catholic priests are assigned by the bishop are the only ones that can do this.
And just also this thing talks about if there's some oppression in a certain part of the body, that may have to do with how the spirit entered in, whether it be the eyes, the stomach, whatever. So then that's when the priest is supposed to apply the crucifix, make the sign of the cross, and say a prayer, because this is so effective in getting rid of the demons. I think it beats down the demons just that are trying to afflict the individual before they leave. This is why it's so powerful.
Yeah, let me mention something, because I know the audience will be curious. They're probably saying, so what is the purpose of all this major exorcism, minor exorcism, deliverance prayers? What's the purpose? The purpose is to torture, Torture. All these prayers are intended to torture a demon that's in the person's body. And it's just like, just kind of imagine, think about, being an American in North Vietnam, back in the late 60s and being captured. They would torture you. They would be putting, sleeves of wood in between your fingernails. They would be smashing your toes with hammers and breaking them one at a time. That's torture to get you to talk. Prayer does the same thing. All these prayers of the church are meant to torture a demon where they feel so uncomfortable because they're in so much pain that they say, I'm out of here, and they leave. And that's what's called in the Bible driving them out. But they're driven out, but they're not converted. They're like, oh, I'm going to accept Jesus. All these prayers are so beautiful. I want to be a Christian. No, they're tortured. It hurts them because demons can't hear to stand truth. Truth hurts them. And this is how they're driven out little by little.
Okay, good. We are number 17, Jess?
He will pay attention as to what words in particular cause the evil spirits to tremble, repeating them the more frequently there is. Which is what I said. And when he comes to a threatening expression, he recurs to it again and again, always increasing the punishment. If he perceives that he's making progress, let him persist for 2 or 3 or 4 hours and longer if he can until victory is attained. The longest I've helped the priest pray for somebody is 3 hours, about 3 hours and like 5 minutes. That's the longest. But I heard they can go longer. They usually last, what I've seen, where a person gets relief or the demon's driven out, between 1 and 2 hours is average. But this can go on for a long time. But once the priest kind of hits the sweet spot, in other words, whether it's Psalm 91 or the Litanies to Mary, they're going to find something that this demon, this one particularly, he hates and it hurts him. And that's when the demon says, okay, let's say this over and over and over again.
And just the priest has to be keenly aware of the age and condition of the patient, because in the event you have an elderly person that may have led a life of debauchery, etc., he doesn't want to go too far to tire them to a point where it could affect their health. That's always foremost in the priest's mind.
Yep.
Okay, this is word number 18.
Yeah.
The exorcist should guard against giving or recommending any medicine to the patient, but should leave this to the care of physicians. So this is something just where medication is something that a doctor does, not necessarily a priest. But I think that measured use of psychological meds is probably the phrase of the day, because some of these medications create things in their mind that they may not be consistent with casting out a demon.
I know several exorcists that I've talked to, they've told me that if a person's under medication, they won't treat them for exorcism. They'll say, we're not going to tell you to get off it because we can't do that because we're not MDs. But I can just tell you that the prayers will be blocked, it'll be useless, so I can't treat you. So some will take a hardline stance and say, can't do it, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's we're through 3 segments, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back with one more segment. Stay with us, don't leave.
This is Terry Barber inviting you, all the men, to a men's conference June 15th at the Sacred Heart Chapel. This is going to be a day where we're going to talk about true masculinity. You know, there's a problem in the Catholic Church today. We have very few men who love the Catholic faith. And I know a lot of the wives that I'm listening to right now saying, I want my husband to be on fire for the faith. Send him to the men's conference. Your son, send him to the men's conference by going to virginmostpowerfulradio.org or call 877-526-2151. That's June 15th. When your husband comes back from this conference, or your son, they're going to have a different view about their Catholic faith, because they're going to meet 3 men who love Jesus and his bride, the church, and are going to instill in them a love for Christ and his church, the Eucharist, Our Lady. Bring them to virginmostpowerfulradio.org. Sign up there or call 877-526-2151. Full sheen ahead.
It is only because of your continued prayers and generous donations that Virgin Most Powerful Radio can broadcast live each weekday. We count on your spiritual and financial support because you understand the urgent need for Catholic programming that shares the gospel with clarity and charity, but without compromise. Please prayerfully consider becoming a monthly donor. You can set it up with the touch of a button on our website, catholicrc.org.
Buying or selling your home or your business property? This is Terry Barber. Real Estate for Life underwrites the Terry and Jesse Show. And they can connect you to one of 900 pro-life real estate agents around the world. And when they receive their referral fee, they will give 80% of it to a pro-life organization. Wow! That's 80%! realestateforlife.org, 877-LIFE-US1.
Now, back to Jesus 911. If this call is not an emergency, dial 888-526-2151.
Welcome back to Jesus 911, everybody. We're going to finish up on the items that a bishop, uses to select the priest that will handle a certain case. Jess, where are we here?
Yeah, we're on number 19. And also these are, once the priest is selected, these are the 21 rules of engagement that a Catholic priest must follow to do what's called a solemn or a major exorcism. This only applies to those Catholic priests in the Latin Rite or in the West. They have to follow this. Eastern Catholics, every priest in the Eastern Catholic Church is an exorcist. Everyone. So just for example, if you think somebody's possessed, and if you find the nearest Byzantine or any Eastern Rite Catholic church in your area, look at the yellow pages, you can knock at the rectory door literally and say, Father, this, that, and this has happened to me. I think I'm possessed. An Eastern Catholic priest, they would treat you immediately because all of them are exorcists. In the Latin Rite, it's a little bit harder. They have a lot of hoops that they have to jump. Point number 19. While performing the exorcism over a woman, the priest ought always to have assisting him several women of good repute, who will hold on to the person when she is harassed by the evil spirit. These assistants ought, if possible, to be close relatives of the subject, and for the sake of decency, the exorcist will avoid saying or doing anything that might prove an occasion of evil thoughts to himself or to others. I can tell you some very good people, very good priests that are exorcists have by not following this protocol, number 19, and doing an exorcism by themselves over a possessed woman, have gotten themselves in trouble, whether the accusations were true or not, but they've been removed from ministry and stuff. So number 19 is extremely sensitive, especially because most victims of possession are women, the lion's share, by far. And so a priest always have to have a woman present, have the door open wherever he's at, if he's in the church, and make sure there's many women present. And if all possible, if you could have them hold the person down, that would be good. It usually takes a man to hold the woman down because of their preternatural strength. But nonetheless, as long as you have women present there, that way no false accusations can be made.
Yeah, Justin, this is one that's, like you said, it's sensitive. In the age where we have people putting in windows in the confessional, this is something that has to be followed. And I understand there's a reason for it, but we also have to have men on there because, like we said, this is something where when the demon takes possession, takes control over the physical body of a woman, it very well overwhelm one or two women, and you need a man in there to be able to control.
Heck, it overwhelms
to some
men.
degree. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've been there too.
It overwhelms 4 or 5 men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay. Number 20. During the exorcism, he shall preferably employ words from Holy Writ rather than forms of his own or of someone else. He shall, moreover, command the devil to tell whether he is detained in the body by necromancy, by evil signs or amulets. And if the one possessed has taken the latter by mouth, he should be made to vomit them. If he has them concealable on his person, he should expose them, and when discovered, they must be burned. Moreover, the person should be exhorted to reveal all his temptations to The Exorcist. And just this particular one, you start thinking about it. This should be something that's addressed before the ritual occurs now in this day and age. So if there's something on their body, but yet, I've been to a couple of these deliverances where you had somebody that receives a gift from somebody and they just forget. They put them on, they use them. They could have been cursed, and so they're asked to take them off there. But generally speaking, this stuff should be addressed before. And then when it comes to having swallowed the something that infected them, then they have to be made to vomit, to throw them up, to get them out of their body, to expel them. That in itself is how the demon keeps control of an individual when there's something that they've ingested and it remains in the body.
And that's why, by the way, in case you're wondering why we do grace before meals, why is it that Catholics pray grace before meals? Exorcists will tell you that the reason we do that is because, especially not so much at home we do grace before meals to thank God, like it says in 1 Timothy chapter 4, to thank God for the food that he's given us. But outside of the home, in a public place, you don't know if the cooks curse your food. You don't know if they're Satanists or Luciferians or Wiccans, and you don't know if they've cursed or hexed your food. And that's why specifically in a public place, you want to say grace before meals to remove any curse. Number 21. Finally, after the possessed one has been freed, let him be admonished to guard himself carefully against falling into sin, so as to afford no opportunity to the evil spirit of returning, lest the last state of that man become worse than the former. This happens often. I mean, I'm dealing with this one guy, a phone conversation. I'm trying to help him out. He went through several exorcisms for several years. He got into a life of Satanism and witchcraft for many years, left the Catholic faith, cursed out God, cursed out the Eucharist. He would rip rosaries to get. He did this for like 30 years. He was possessed. He was treated by the diocesan exorcist for several years. It's a very hard case. And what ended up happening, he went back to his old secular ways, not going to mass, living in mortal sin, and he got repossessed. And now the diocesan exorcist says, it took like 5 years of my life, the priest said, to help you out. And it was very, very difficult. You took 5 years of my life. He says, I can't do this again. I can't do round two. So this is serious stuff here. If you're not willing to embrace Christ, and if you're not willing to even catechize yourself, start saying, I want to read the 10 Commandments. I want to read the power of the sacraments. I want to read, I want to learn the prayers of the church. If a person's not willing to do that, Eddie, it's gonna come right back again because they're unprotected.
And just even Scripture tells us that if the spirits return after exorcism, they're going to be 7 times worse, and so we want to avoid having to deal with that because, like you said, this priest spent 5 years of his life. Can you imagine just waiting for the weekends or waiting for the day that the individual, the patient, is available to be treated, and then you get the team together, you inconvenience 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever amount of members of the team you have. You bring them into the church. You pray for them. You go through the struggles of that for umpteen years. And then the individual gradually goes back to what he did before. This is something that's too much. I mean, as a team member, I would say, you know what? I'm with Father here. I don't think that we can invest this amount of time on the same person thinking that the same result might occur this time as well.
That's right. And just another thing I guess should mention, I think would be of interest, is that an exorcism is called a sacramental. It's not a sacrament. And so a sacramental is not as powerful as a sacrament. That's why every exorcist that writes about this will tell you that the sacrament of confession is more powerful than what we just described to you right here, the rite of solemn exorcism. It's more powerful because a sacramental, the rite of exorcism, what it does, when it's effective over and over again, it could remove a demon from your body, which is very good, could drive out a demon from your body, which is very, obviously very, something that very helpful, and anybody who's possessed would welcome that. But a sacrament, like sacrament of confession, it drives out evil from your soul, and it also gives your soul what you don't have, sanctifying grace, the life of God, the Trinity in your soul. And so, let me just quote to you the oldest exorcist in the U.S. His name's Monsignor Joseph Essef. He's the exorcist of Scranton, Pennsylvania. He's 90 years old. He's been an exorcist for 50 years. He's the oldest exorcist in the world. He says, quote, "The sacrament of confession is 100 times more powerful than a solemn exorcism." Is this microphone on? Let me check. Yep, it's on.
That's amazing, Jess. You know, when you think about that, it gives you an idea as to the power of the sacraments. I think we lowball those things sometimes. Just we go in there with preconceived notions about what's going to happen and how it's going to occur, and we're not really focused on what happens with our soul when we reconcile to God Almighty.
Eddie, and I'm going to tell you why a lot of people don't receive full healing and even set free from the diabolical in the sacrament of confession. I'll tell you why. Okay, because many Catholics make a poor confession. They do. They don't examine their conscience. They go, examine what? What are you talking about? Guys say, Terry, so a lot of the priests, they'll tell you that some of the confessions are lame. Oh, Father, I stole something. I haven't been in confession in 5 years. I stole something, Father. I said the F word and I was mean to my wife. Yeah, that's it, Father. Well, that was a good confession. And if you don't examine your conscience, you're not going to root out evil. And this is why a lot of people go to confession and they still remain possessed or demonized, and they're still attached to all these evil sins because they didn't root out the problem. They didn't make a good confession. So what would I recommend to you? Get on the internet, type in examination of conscience. And if you got my book, it's in my book. I got Mother Angelica's examination. That's the one she used. That's the one I use. It's in my book, Lord, Prepare My Hands for Battle. Or get on the internet, just type that in. Print it out and go to confession once a month and read that. Take that with you. It's about 150 questions and you'll make a good confession. And if there's an evil spirit that's in you, you will drive it out with a good confession. It's more powerful than an exorcism. And if you're being plagued, if you're being tormented by demons because you're always giving it a concupiscence, make a good confession, examine your conscience, and make it a practice also of saying a good act of contrition every night before you and do it out of love for God. If you make an act of contrition out of love for God, you put yourself in a state of grace. If you do an act of contrition, what's called imperfect contrition, because you fear hell, you don't put yourself in imperfect contrition does not put you in a state of grace. Perfect contrition does. It's very difficult to do. Work on it.
Just like Father Cropper used to say, you're supposed to have perfect contrition, but being afraid of the devil is a good place to start. So let's start there and work our way
towards perfect contrition.
Exactly. Move towards the ultimate there.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us today on Jesus 911. We'll be back again tomorrow. And stay tuned for Gary Machuda on Hands-On Apologetics at the dojo. And any parting words, Jess?
Saint Michael the Archangel, pray for us. Virgin most powerful, pray for us. Saint Joseph, Seraph Demons, pray for us.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Saint Faustina's Prayer for Priests. O my Jesus, I beg thee on behalf of the whole Church, grant it love and the light of thy Spirit, and give power to the words of priests, so that hardened hearts might be brought to repentance and return to thee, O Lord. Lord, give us holy priests. Thou thyself maintain them in holiness. O divine and great High Priest, may the power of thy mercy accompany them everywhere, and protect them from the devil's traps and snares, which are continually being set for the souls of priests. May the power of thy mercy, O Lord, shatter and bring to naught all that might tarnish the sanctity of priests. For thou canst do all things. Amen. Virgin most powerful, pray for us.